Welcome back. This is Jack and Mack's Thack Attack. I'm Jack.
And I'm Mack.
And we're here discussing Charles Dickens' Our Mutual Friend. We are on monthly number 10, and that is chapters 14, 15, and 16. Chapter 14 starts off with John Rokesmith, and he's visited by Mr. Wilfer. Mr. Wilfer brings him a present from Bella, and Mr. Rokesmith, who we now know is John Harmon Jr., is still thinking that he has a chance for Bella because he gets a present from her dad, kind of, token of appreciation, and he still thinks he has a chance. He then goes on to different characters in the book. He starts visiting. He starts walking around the town after Mr. Wilfer gives him this present, and he is visited by Betty Higdon. Betty Higdon, remember, is the caretaker of Sloppy. And Betty Higdon says, "Hey, Mr. Rokesmith, can I have a minute?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." Now, Betty Higdon, why don't you tell us what Betty Higdon told
She's
Rokesmith?
like, "Oh, hey, I'm gonna, peace out of here and leave, just so then Sloppy can have, like, a nice restart, kind of refresh, so then he can go on with his life without me." And so, John Rokesmith is like, "Are you sure that's the best plan of attack for this? I don't know if that's our best option." And she's like, "Oh, yeah."
She's like, I just need your approval to do this." And he's like, "You know what? It's your choice, so of course I'm going to give you the approval as a friend." So she says, "Will you tell the Boffins for me?" And so he says, "Of course." Immediately goes home and says, "Mr. and Mrs. Boffin, this is what Betty Higdon wants to do." And they're like, "Well, if that's what she really wants to do, go for it. Have at it." But of course they're bummed to see her go. At the end of chapter 14, Mr. Rokesmith goes to see Bradley Headstone. And in the middle of this, or why don't you tell us what Bradley Headstone talks about while I'm trying to find this page number really quickly.
So, I'm trying to remember what he talks
The
about.
Eugene Rayburn thing.
Oh, right. So he's asking him about different people related to the murder. He's like, "Oh, hey, I noticed that you don't really like Eugene Rayburn." And so then Headstone's like, "Oh, do you know him?" And he's like, "No, I don't." So then he's like,
A little suspicious, yeah.
And so then he asks him about several other characters linked to the murder, and
That he thinks that is linked to the murder, so we can try to figure it out. We know, page 378, we know that John Rokesmith wants to find out about the murder because it says, "John Harmon being buried under mountains of snow, the secretary that very same day set himself to finish his affairs and have done with him. He drew up an ample declaration to be signed by Rogue Riderhood." Now, it says in parentheses here, so we know we have to pay attention. Knowing Rogue Riderhood, parentheses, knowing he could get his signature to it by making him another and much shorter evening call. We know that Rokesmith has visited Rogue Riderhood in the past, so maybe Rogue Riderhood knows more about the murder and is in with Rokesmith together.
Yeah.
We don't know. But we know that this chapter 14, he's trying to be done with John Harmon, so he's trying to erase, see if anybody has any past ideas about him so that they can just erase them from their memory.
Yeah. So chapter 15, we come back to Bradley Headstone, and
my personal favorite in the book.
What a guy!
Wow, he's try hard.
He's like, "Oh, Lizzie, dang girl," and so Charlie's like,
even though she already rejected him,
yeah,
he's still
so
persistent.
Charlie's like, "You like her that much?" He's like, "Yeah," and so he's like, "Hook you up, bro." So he does, and so he and Lizzie are chilling. Bradley Headstone and Lizzie, I should say, and
it's on this perfect night. Before you go on, I'm going to read this description
Go
that
for it.
Dickens just gives. It's just a fantastic paragraph describing London in that night, and it perfectly sets the mood. Remember how we read How to Read a Literature Like a Professor? That book, it perfectly sets the mood for this next scene. Now prepare yourselves, because this is pretty good. A grey, dusty, withered evening in London City has not a hopeful aspect. The closed warehouses and offices have an air of death about them, and the national dread of colour has an air of mourning. The towers and steeples of the many house encompassed churches, dark and dingy as the sky had seemed descending upon them, are no relief to the general gloom. A sundial on the church wall has the look in its useless black shade of having failed in its business enterprise, and stopped pavement forever. Melancholy waifs and strays of housekeepers and porters sweep melancholy waifs and strays of papers and pins into the kennels. And other melancholy waifs and strays explore them, searching and stooping and poking for anything to sell. The set of humanity outward from the city is a set of prisoners departing from goal, and dismal Newgate seems quite as fit a stronghold for the mighty Lord Mayor as his own state dwelling. He goes from everything from the people who pick the streets to the mayor of the town. It's just an amazing description.
Just a great description of how beautiful the city is.
Just gorgeous.
Nice. And so Bradley is like, "Hey, I love you."
They're walking around this little church. I think it's a church, but they're on these cobblestone steps, and he's like, it's him and Charlie Hexam and Lizzie, and Charlie's like, "I'm gonna leave you two to it," and of course Lizzie's like, "No, don't leave," and Charlie's like, "I'm out." You know?
See ya. So then Bradley's like, "I love you," in I'm kind of paraphrasing 3 pages worth, and Lizzie's like, "Did you not get the message?
I don't want to be your wife."
And at this point, we established that Bradley Headstone is officially bipolar, and he goes on a ranting rage about how he's... Here, I'll read it for you. Thank you for pointing that out.
Once he finds out that she does not love him, this is his response.
"Then," said he, suddenly changing his tone and turning to her, and bringing his clenched hand down upon the stone with a force that laid the knuckles raw and bleeding, "then I hope that I may never kill him." The dark look of hatred and revenge with which the words broke from his livid lips, and with which he stood holding out his smeared hand as if it held some weapon and had just struck a mortal blow, made her so afraid of him that she turned to run away, but he caught her by the arm.
Wow. So we now know that he wants to kill the man, Eugene Rayburn.
Yeah, Eugene Rayburn.
He somehow knows that there's a connection there, and he really wants to get it out for Mr. Eugene Rayburn. But he calms down by the end of the chapter, and I don't think he's going to kill anybody, but...
hopefully not.
Geez, it was really a rough night for Bradley Headstone, and same thing for Lizzie. In the Lizzie... and
then Charlie kicks her out.
That's right. Charlie is like, I tried so hard for you to just... Like, he is... What does he say about his worth compared to hers?
30 times?
Yeah, 30 times. He's 30 times your worth. You should marry him right now. And so they get into this big fight, and he's like, I disown you, and he storms off.
You're dead.
And immediately after he storms off, we don't get anybody except for Mr. Rhea, the Jew. Remember the Jew? That was the secretary, the other secretary. Man, this guy is a really nice guy, and it just shows us again how great Charles Dickens really loves Jews, because he stops and sees Lizzie Hexam crying on the street corner, and he says, "My daughter," said the old man, I stand amazed. I spoke as to a stranger. Take my arm. What grieves you? Who has done this to you? Poor girl. Can I help you? Can I do anything to give you comfort?" Just a great guy. And so he starts leading her home. Meanwhile, they meet Eugene Rayburn, who also wants to escort her home, which is not a bad thing, because they're both friends, and they introduce each other, and they say, "Oh, good Christian gentleman," and a good Jew, essentially, good Aaron, Mr. Aaron, and they escort her home together, and then Mr. Ryan walks off, and they both part their ways, and it's a very sad but excellently written chapter. It's amazing. So Dickens does a fantastic job of letting us see that violent imagery with Bradley Headstone and the sweetness of the Jew.
Kind of a nice juxtaposition of those two emotions in the chapter. So.
Yeah, it's a great word choice.
No, thank you.
Nice. All right, when we come back, chapter 16.
I know what you're
Welcome back to Jack and Mack's Thack Attack. We're going to be discussing chapter 16 now.
Alright, it is a party at the Veneerings, and Twemlow is really spicing it up. It's actually interesting. There's some personification of fancy, the concept, and how it has kind of scorned him and made him kind of a little bit of a weaker person. It's interesting how everything in the party is rather, well, to quote the book, it's showy and gaudy.
Yeah.
And as we also see, the Lamleys are keeping their eyes on Georgiana and Fledgeby just so they don't make any false moves.
Yeah, 'cause they're engaged, you know. So, thumbs up for them. So, otherwise, they're just having, breakfast together and gossiping, and nothing really happens. There's a cool little paragraph that I underlined. Why don't you read that there?
So this is on the topic of Georgiana and Fletchby. It says, that child, Georgiana, she will be sacrificed. She will be inveigled and married to that connection of yours. It is a partnership affair, a money speculation. She has no strength of will or character to help herself, and she is on the brink of being sold into wretchedness for life. So it's almost like she's being enslaved.
Yeah, enslaved or, prostituted, whatever you wanted to say, but she needs a wealthy husband to basically get her going, because she has no will or just drive to, stay alive and active. So Georgiana's not the best person to be marrying, but I guess it's all a money situation since it is the Veneerings and Twemlow. So is that it in chapter 16?
Basically.
And that ends book number dos. We're all done with book 1. Finished book 1, finished book 2. I think we have 2 more books. How many books are in this thing? This thing's a beast.
Yeah, there are 4 books. Yeah.
4 books? Okay. Once again, I'm Jack.
And I'm Mack.
And this is Jack and Mack's Thack Attack. Have a great one, guys. See you next time.